Imagine a significant project you're deeply committed to. Maybe it's a new community initiative, perhaps a personal creative thing, or, a really challenging professional goal. You've poured over strategies, you've gathered resources, you've fueled it with all your passion. But what if the real secret to its momentum, that unseen element that truly pushes it forward, isn't what we usually focus on? Our deep dive today, drawing from the specific sources you've shared with us, unpacks an often overlooked yet profoundly powerful dimension: prayer. Not just as a preliminary step, but as what these texts call the very engine room of mission.
It's a really compelling idea, isn't it? Because when we look back through history, I mean, from the earliest church movements right up to surprising modern initiatives, your sources show this consistent pattern. Prayer wasn't just alongside the mission, offering a bit of moral support.
Mm.
It quite literally propelled it. It actively shaped the environment. It opened doors, provided insights that honestly no amount of human planning could ever predict. It's about transforming action from something that might just be good to something truly groundbreaking.
Okay.
So we're going to explore what it means to really internalize this view, seeing prayer as the operational core that gives clarity, resilience, and that kind of momentum that often feels invisible but is always, always impactful.
Okay, let's really unpack this idea of prayer as an engine room. Because I think for many of us, myself included, we often treat prayer more like a spiritual warm-up, something we do before the real work starts. We sort of check that box, then we get down to business. But what do your sources say is the actual cost of thinking like that? Because they seem to suggest it might be exactly what slows down our impact.
You've really hit on a crucial point there. The sources argue pretty strongly that we've often pushed prayer into just a supportive role, seeing it as something before the action rather than, the action itself. And the warning is quite stark. Ignoring this dimension isn't just missing an opportunity, it's actually risking stagnation.
Stagnation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Think about it like this. In our world today, things change so fast. You've got complex cultural dynamics, you have spiritual pushback, real resource constraints. Just planning and executing, well, it isn't always enough, is it? Embracing prayer as the engine room offers this, transformative advantage. It's what allows for deep discernment, truly effective mobilization, and the kind of sustained effort that you just can't get with traditional approaches alone. It gives a path to clarity, resilience, and that kind of momentum that, frankly, even the cleverest strategy can't produce by itself.
That's a really powerful distinction. It almost sounds, I don't know, too good to be true. But as your sources show, this isn't some new idea, some modern fad. This engine room thinking has deep roots, right? Woven throughout history, ancient texts. Where do we first see this pattern?
Oh, absolutely. The biblical narratives are just full of examples.
Yeah.
But let's not just list verses. Let's maybe tell a quick story. Think about Moses, right? A moment of absolute national crisis. The people of Israel have just messed up big time with the golden calf. And in Exodus, we see God's righteous anger building. Now, what does Moses do? He doesn't immediately call his generals or draft a new recovery plan.
Right.
No, he engages in this fervent, persistent intercession. He pleads with God based on their relationship, their history, and that prayer actually changes the direction of divine judgment. It protects an entire community.
Yeah.
That's prayer acting as a spiritual lever, influencing nations, not just one person.
A spiritual lever. That's fascinating. And it wasn't just a quick please help, but this persistent, almost argumentative plea.
Exactly. Persistent is the key word. And then fast forward, New Testament, Jesus himself. Before every huge moment, every major decision like choosing his 12 disciples, Luke tells us about Jesus didn't just, squeeze in a quick prayer. He spent entire nights alone in prayer.
Entire.
Yes. And then in the Garden of Gethsemane, facing the cross, prayer wasn't some optional add-on. It was this intense, agonizing process of aligning his human will with the divine mission. Not my will, but yours be done. That wasn't just personal devotion. It was the engine room of his whole missional strategy. It shaped his heart, the mission's path, gave him strength when facing immense suffering.
So it's not just an afterthought or even a before-thought, but a deliberate, strategic, core part of the process, even for Jesus. What about the early church? Did they pick up on this?
Oh, they absolutely embraced it.
Yeah.
The book of Acts consistently shows them devoting themselves to the prayers. This wasn't just a casual thing they did. It was the fuel for their unity, the guide for their big decisions, like when they fasted and prayed before sending out Barnabas and Saul, two of their absolute key leaders.
Right. That was a huge decision.
A massive decision. And it was also their lifeline during persecution, Remember Peter, miraculously sprung from prison. The church wasn't out organizing protests. They were gathered together praying earnestly. What's really striking across all these different times and places is how consistently you see visible transformations flowing directly from these unseen but deeply fervent moments of prayer.
That consistency really is compelling. Okay, so for us today, practically speaking, if prayer really is the engine room, how do we, operate it? Many of us might find the whole idea a bit abstract. How do your sources break this down, make it actionable day to day? What are the levers we can actually pull?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And your sources do provide some clear mechanics. First up, discipline and rhythm. This isn't just about praying when you feel like it or when things get desperate. It means setting up regular, structured times for prayer. Think individual devotional times, team prayer meetings, maybe even coordinating global intercession schedules for bigger projects. It's like consistent maintenance for a real engine. If you want it to run smoothly and continuously, it needs regular care.
So proactive, scheduled time, not just reacting to crises.
Precisely. Then there's intercessory depth. We're talking about moving beyond just our own needs, our own little list of requests. Intercession, simply put, is praying on behalf of others, praying for whole communities, for nations, for tackling systemic issues. It's a much bigger scope. Look at Paul's prayers for the churches, like in Ephesians. He's not just asking for basic blessings, he's praying for wisdom, deep insight, spiritual empowerment for entire movements.
That's a huge shift in focus. So we're not just praying for our project's success, but for the whole environment around it, the people involved.
Exactly. And third, very important, integration with action. This is a crucial feedback loop they talk about. Prayer fuels action, yes, but action should also drive us back to prayer. Strategic planning, community engagement, personal growth, all of it needs to be saturated with prayerful reflection. It shouldn't be separate.
Okay, so they feed each other.
They have to. And fourth, communal culture. Building shared prayer within teams isn't just a nice to have. It actively cultivates resilience, mutual encouragement, and makes sure everyone's pulling in the same direction, spiritually aligned. An engine room works best when all the parts are working together smoothly, right?
Yeah.
The sources say the same about a prayer culture within a team or organization.
Makes sense. And are there specific tools or infrastructure mentioned that help actually do this? Because that's often where the abstract idea becomes concrete for people.
Absolutely. The sources get quite practical here. They talk about tangible infrastructure. Things like consciously building a robust home prayer network. People committed to praying regularly for the initiative. Implementing prayer walks, where you physically walk through strategic areas, praying specifically for the people, the places, the challenges you see. Using scripture-fed rhythms, letting specific Bible passages shape both your heart and your strategy, guiding your prayers. They even suggest creating practical tools, like a weekly prayer update email for supporters to keep them engaged and informed on what to pray for. Or maybe a 30-day guided prayer calendar specifically designed for, say, a church planting team to help everyone focus their prayers together.
These really do sound like ways to transform prayer from this sort of abstract devotion into something strategic, replicable, something that directly fuels the outcomes you're looking for, making it concrete.
And what's truly fascinating here, drawing again from your sources, is that this engine isn't just about making things move forward. It's fundamentally about transformation. Prayer creates this ripple effect that moves outwards, starting personally, then touching the community, and even reaching globally. On a personal level, the sources point to something almost counterintuitive. It's not just praying for the impact you want, but the very act of deep, humble prayer itself transforms the leader.
Ah, okay.
Builds this unexpected resilience against burnout, something even the most meticulous planners often struggle with. It's like the inner engine creating an outer fortress. It shapes character, cultivates discernment, aligns the soul.
So the prayer isn't just for the project, but it's actively shaping and strengthening the person leading the project. That's a significant shift in thinking.
Precisely. And this interchange naturally extends outward to community impact. Teams that are really immersed in prayer, your sources suggest, gain this heightened sensitivity to God's direction, to where things need to go. They describe how even small groups committed to intercession can dramatically alter the spiritual atmosphere of a community, fostering unity, softening resistance where it exists. And then this ripple can influence broader societal transformation. Think about movements for justice, ethical reforms. Prayer helps create that fertile ground for long-term positive change. Much like Paul's strategic prayers seem to have a lasting impact on entire communities he was involved with.
That idea of prayer influencing societal patterns is really powerful. Which brings us to another compelling idea from the sources, how prayer actively clears the air, preparing the ground for the work to actually take root. How is that described? How does that work?
Yeah, think of it like an architect getting a building site ready. Before you can build anything lasting, you need to clear the debris, maybe level the ground, stabilize the foundation. Your sources describe prayer as doing exactly that, but on the unseen spiritual soil of a community or situation. It's spiritual groundwork. It's about loosening hard hearts, softening resistance, creating a genuine receptivity that wasn't there before. It engages with those unseen forces that, according to texts like Ephesians, really shape our reality,
Okay, so it's preparing the way.
preparing the way. And then there's the element of spiritual warfare. Now, that term can sound intense, but the idea is that effective intercession acts as a kind of spiritual offensive. It confronts those forces or mindsets that actively hinder progress, hinder the positive message you're trying to bring. The scriptures use metaphors like binding the strong man or challenging the root causes of spiritual blindness and resistance.
So it's not just a passive asking, but an active engagement on a spiritual level. More assertive, maybe.
Yes, you could say that. It's strategic, it's targeted, it's operational on that level. And finally, related to this is the idea of preparing persons of peace. This means prayer helps identify and perhaps even ready those receptive individuals within a community, people who can become natural channels or conduits for an initiative's growth and acceptance. Remember Lydia in the book of Acts. The text says her heart was opened to Paul's message. Your sources suggest that kind of openness is often catalyzed by unseen, focused prayer, strategically preparing individuals to embrace the message or the mission when it arrives.
That's a really powerful connection between the unseen prayer and the very tangible, measurable outcomes like someone's heart opening up. Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture, many people hold misconceptions about prayer, don't they? Often creating this false dichotomy between prayer and action. I've definitely heard people say, why pray when you could be doing something? How do your sources challenge those kinds of ideas head on?
That's a really common and honestly understandable question. The first big misconception the sources tackle is that prayer is not a substitute for action. It's never meant to be. It is the fuel for action, the empowerment behind the action. Think about Nehemiah again. He prayed passionately about Jerusalem's ruined walls.
Right.
But then he got up, got permission, gathered resources, and started rebuilding them. His prayer clarified his priorities, it strengthened his resolve, and it perfectly aligned his strategy with what he understood to be God's will.
So it's definitely not either, but a powerful both hand. What's another common trap people fall into regarding prayer?
Another one is believing that prayer is not a guarantee of specific predetermined outcomes. It's fundamentally relational, not contractual, like ordering from a cosmic vending machine. True prayer, as the book of James implies, is about seeking God's perspective, cultivating perseverance and trust, even and especially when outcomes look different from what we expected or wanted. It's about aligning with His will, not trying to impose ours.
Okay, that's crucial. Managing expectations.
Exactly. And then there's the flip side. Action without prayer can actually be counterproductive. Just pure human effort, however well-intentioned, can end up being spiritually hollow. It can easily lead to burnout, maybe even misalignment with a deeper purpose. Paul in his letters constantly emphasize the Spirit's empowerment, not just human ingenuity or cleverness.
So without that prayer foundation, we're potentially just running on fumes, or maybe even running hard in the wrong direction entirely.
Precisely. The sources really emphasize this dynamic interplay. Prayer, as someone like Oswald Chambers famously put it, is the primary work. It creates this divine partnership where prayer fuels genuinely effective action, and then that action, as you experience the challenges and needs, continually draws you back into deeper dependence on God through prayer. It completely reframes our work from either prayer or our action to a dynamic both-hand approach. And that ensures that what we do isn't just effective in the short term, but carries eternal significance.
This is such a profound reframe for how we approach pretty much any significant endeavor, isn't it? So bringing it right down to today. What does all of this mean for you, our listener, in your modern context, facing the challenges you face right now?
It means, first, that prayer provides essential discernment in complex environments. It offers clarity where human wisdom just falls short, maybe helping navigate tricky cultural sensitivities or complex ethical dilemmas, much like the early church sought guidance through fasting and prayer before making those huge leadership decisions we mentioned.
Okay, so clarity and complexity.
Yes. Second, it ensures the sustainability of effort. Teams or individuals relying on divine sustenance, not just purely human energy and willpower, are far less likely to burn out. They can maintain impact over the long haul. Third, prayer provides spiritual authority and protection. It helps fortify efforts against opposition, whether that's internal doubts or external challenges, and ensures initiatives stay aligned with God's protective and empowering purposes. And finally, it often fosters innovation through revelation. God frequently imparts creative strategies, fresh insights, genuinely unconventional solutions in response to persistent, prayerful inquiry ideas that might surpass purely conventional thinking.
So it's not just asking for help, it's opening up to new ways of thinking, too.
Exactly. Embracing prayer as the core engine isn't just a nice spiritual idea. It's presented here as a strategic, practical, and deeply biblical approach. It aligns our human effort with divine purpose, leading to outcomes that are sustainable, truly transformative, and ultimately eternally significant for whatever you're passionate about.
Wow. Today, we've really taken a deep dive into this profound idea that prayer isn't just the warm-up act, not just the preliminary step, but the actual engine room of mission and impact. It's described as this invisible powerhouse that drives very visible transformation, as we've seen in the sources you shared.
Indeed. And maybe a final thought to leave with you is this. Mission without prayer is like a car without an engine. It might look ready, could be polished, perfectly designed on the outside, but it simply cannot move.
Whoa.
What if every challenge you face in your work, in your community, maybe even in your personal life, what if it could be approached first through this engine room of prayer, and the results, the actions, the solutions flowed naturally from that foundation?
So the question for you is, are you ready to move beyond seeing prayer as just a prelude and maybe start treating it as the foundational power source, allowing it to ignite transformation from the inside out?